Good.
Yep. We're good.
All right. Everybody, thank you for being here. It is Tuesday, May 13th, 4:01 PM. I'm calling this meeting to order. First, the approval of the minutes from April 2025 meeting.
Motion to approve pending any adjustments. Second.
Everything look good to everyone? Okay, motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor? Any opposed? All right, public comment.
Nobody's on.
Online, anybody here? Does it look like it? Okay, approval of the agenda. So unless we want to add anything or subtract, there's nothing. Subtract, really? Someone can say, I move that we approve the agenda as presented. Unless you want to add stuff, then we can do that.
I move to approve the agenda.
Okay, second?
Second.
Second was Ryan.
Yes.
Thank you. All those in favor? Any opposed? All right, team and staff reports.
So this, it's the same format that we've had for the last few times, so kind of starting out with just some general, board items, which I just found out, so board renewals are going on now, and so the terms that are expiring, but all of them are eligible to reapply if you'd like to, is, Mark's term, which is a Main Street, stakeholder, Phil's term, which is 7th Avenue stakeholder, Hans' term, which is a at-large member, and Jerry's, which is an at-large member, and Jerry's already said that he's not interested in renewing for this term.
Except for you.
And so if you are planning or would like to renew, you'll still need to fill out the application, and I'll send it out to everybody. I just got that updated one today. That's where we are.
So I guess now would be the time to say, I'm not going to come back after June 30th either. So this would be, I would leave 2 years open. Technically, I would not have completed 2 full terms, but because when we rewrote bylaws in 2020 and we had to do away with all the terms that were the old scattered terms, I have done it for a long time, like 12 years, and that's long enough. So I will stay until June 30, and then when we start the new fiscal year, July 1, I will not be coming back, so they will be appointing someone.
Will you make sure Jill knows? That
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if anyone else, like, you don't have to complete your term. And so if you're, but it is better to tell us now, so that way the new people come on all at the same time versus like mid-year or something like that. So you can talk about it today, or you can just talk about it just let me know, so that way we can make sure we know what seats we need to fill.
And they appoint in June. So for the stuff starting in July, because every July, all of the boards or committees should have an organizational meeting, which is where you elect officers. So that's, and then the new fiscal year starts July 1. So that's why council appoints any open positions or coming open positions that they know about then. And I was gonna say something else and I can't remember. I don't remember what I was gonna say. So you guys will have to appoint a new chair and vice chair and everything and Matthew's vice chair. Matthew might step up to be chair in July, but we don't have to talk about that now.
We don't want to talk about that?
But we can. You wanna do it?
Well, obviously there needs to be, but with your consideration, I would be very excited at the possibility of taking over as chair.
Second.
But Caroline has done a remarkable amount of community service, especially with these. I mean, she's done a lot, but kind of being under her wing for a while, recognizing all that she's done, and the opportunity to carry forward, I would much appreciate it. So that's how I feel.
So you guys will expect that in July, and you'll have new board members that would come to the July meeting. Oh, I remember what I was gonna say. The 2 years remaining doesn't really cause a problem. So we have enough board members and we staggered terms to start that we're 1, 2, and 3 year. So as boards go through time, there will always be, people coming and going. It's not like, it's designed to not have a mass exodus. Like if you put everybody on a 3-year term and then everybody decided not to renew, you'd have every single person leaving and you don't want that. So it's not a problem to not serve the full term, whatever, do what makes you happy. But thank you for being here and doing this with us. Anyway, that's my plan for me, so. And a pleasure, and I'll still be here next month.
Mark, since we were on the first part of the team reports, for board renewals, your term is expiring, you can still re-up for a new one, so if you would like to return, I'll just send everybody the applications for that. Okay. Next, we've got community character. Yeah.
All right. So first of all, Street Festival, hopefully, most of you were there. It was a remarkable turnout. It was really a remarkable turnout. So, the amount of, positive energy and feedback from the community about the street, about the festival itself, it was just a great day all around. And I think the planning definitely paid off. I mean, I think organizationally speaking, it went off really, really well. And, yeah, it was a great day, and hopefully that opens up the door for future events. Right. Public art policy, we basically just still have this, this guideline of April, May, and June, objectives for that. That's, I think we kind of spoke about that last month.
Yeah, and I guess you didn't make it last week's meeting, did you?
I did not make it.
Yeah, so so Phil has done some research on, what we're talking about are the, some of the round planters on Main Street, like where they're brick round planters were actually, built for public art initially. So we've been, considering having those as kind of like a rotating sculpture program, where sculptures are there for a year, they can sell. Sometimes they're, lent from other artists and whatnot. And so Phil's been looking at some other communities and their programs. So we're kind of using that to sort of help us form public art policy. That would then go to y'all and go to council. Am I missing anything on that, Phil? We've got the Art League is involved on that committee. Yeah, so just kind of in the early stages of thinking through on that.
You're doing all kinds of stuff. Good job, guys.
Economic vitality this week, we met the owners of Heron, Bradley and Marissa. They are applying for the facade grant, updating 337 7th Avenue, the old Chicken Shack building.
It's the one where the Amish market used to be.
The corner of Locust and they came to us, they've started some work, but they're trying to shoot for next month to really begin going. They came to us kind of open books and looking for direction. So we suggested a narrow focus on their storefront and windows budgets. And they're gonna come to us with pictures and super specifics next week or next meeting.
Yeah, I got that. I just didn't have a chance to pass it on. So the Economic Vitality basically approved it tentative on Sam with the Historic Preservation Commission to have an additional review for it. And so Sam and I looked through, they sent some extra pictures in addition to their application, and we looked through their estimate, and they had one line item, which we talked about in the committee, of this new storefront and windows was about $20,000. And they sent me these pictures. So this is what it was before. So the old windows were bricked in. So they've already removed those old windows. Here, you can see what that looks like. So that would be replacing those windows. And, the only thing that we had extra questions on, which we got confirmed with them for historic preservation purposes, was making sure that this door and windows was preserved, because that's the most historic, feature for it, and they are gonna be. So that was the only thing we were concerned about from the historic preservation side of things. And, they said,
The new glass went in today, by the way.
when,
Yeah, it went in today.
what?
The
new glass?
The windows.
And I noticed they had brick piled up, like they were able to salvage some of the
Yeah,
brick.
they're wanting to save it.
Some of, I think they were able to save some of it,
Yeah, I don't know what they were gonna use it for.
which is cool.
Yeah, yeah, so that's gonna look good. And then we actually found, so we were looking for an old picture, yeah, of that building, and it doesn't even look like the same building at all, which is pretty, like, when I got that picture, I said, that's not the same thing, is it?
That's the picture that's hanging in the deli and everybody asks me, I'm like, I do not know where it is.
How you do?
Wow.
Yeah, so that, the pointed part that's there now, it was added in at some point, but you can see there's that round door there. Yeah, whenever I've gotten that picture, I said, there's no way that's the same building, but I was wrong.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Is it a gas station?
Yeah. Yeah, so community, or Economic Vitality Committee had approved it based off, or pending the review with Sam, so we reviewed it and Sam reviewed it, and we were good on that.
It's Dunlap Construction, doing the work, and it's their quotes, so they know the deal pretty much. We worked with them before.
Yeah.
Outside of that, there is been expressed interest from the Jane Asher building owners and the owners of Scotty's Jewelry, but nothing specific, but it's probably on the horizon. Hopefully everything goes well for them this year. After that, we talked about the focus of the subcommittee going forward, and we're looking back at the vacant building policy, developing something that we can bring to city council
Yes.
for approval, looking at what other people are doing and
So I've done a quick inventory of 15 other cities and have been reviewing today. Sorry, I have a mental brain. The legal brain, I was looking at the ordinance for the city of Hendersonville today. There's a lot in there. So there's definitely a doing a vacancy registry is kind of new. And I'm seeing some success in other areas. Now, the success that I've seen, I don't know, I think Cherryville was the most successful. They started off with 36 and ended up at 11. But we don't know what the state of the buildings were in when they started at the beginning of the year and were able to drop it down that much. I think Jamie said that it was all one investor that came into Cherryville and did that. I don't know if that's necessarily realistic. But I'm definitely seeing some good practices, like some things that are very applicable about making sure that the building doesn't look vacant. Making sure that the building looks ready for occupancy. And we do have some things that are already on the books. It's a matter of how do you enforce it and look at it. So hopefully I'll have a list of some things that are, good practices that we can go through, Lou and Kathy and zoning, and kind of talk about who would enforce those things and what would be applicable. But there is a $500 fine on the books for the city of Hendersonville for non-compliance, and that's $500 per day for non-compliance past that window. So there are some mechanisms that are already there. It's just going to be a matter of kind of digging in a little bit more. And I want to go back and reread it because sometimes I can get more after I get past the lawyer speak and really just get through it. I think there's some things that are already there. But in the meantime, we're also updating and adding to the business directory pictures of any vacant building or buildings or land that is for sale or on offer in the Main Street corridor as well as on the 7th Avenue corridor. And if I'm missing properties, please just let me know. I'll be happy to make sure that those get added. In the meantime, I'm still taking pictures of some of the pieces that.
So the vacant property registry is something that came up when council did our, when we did the comp plan.
Yeah,
And I think it came up at the last retreat again too. So I know that's something, at least it's something that I've been very interested in. I'm pretty sure Jennifer has as well. So if we can focus on what that maybe could look like, I
I think
think.
there's a partial list on the agenda minutes. Is that what this is, vacancies?
That's just kind of building, or businesses kind of moving and shaking kind of thing.
so I've taken that list from Jamie and added it to the list that I already have going on in the business registry. So, yes, and there's definitely some good practices in with
Okay.
that, compliance, to ensure that, you know, business owners or the building owners, I should say, the property owners are
Perfect.
are supposed to register, and then there's a renewal and, you know, compliance, and, you know, typically there's an out if you're actively under construction or you're selling it or you're trying to get a lease, with some caveats in there, right? Like I can't sell a $5 million building and it's only worth $100,000.
Right.
You know, that's not a true fake effort for sale, but there's definitely some great practices. So that'll be my focus, for the rest of the week along with the farmer's market. I should be able to have something to Jamie this week.
Cool.
Let me add for y'all and from council, when y'all have talked about it before, has it been like, just ones that look dilapidated, or has there been any kind of particulars when y'all talked about it?
I mean, mostly for us, it seems like one of the only ways that we could pull to encourage folks to be more reasonable with what they're asking from potential tenants. Because as it stands right now, I think a lot of people just use our vacant buildings as a loss leader in their portfolio, and they don't really care that there's nobody in it. And that's why they'll ask for exorbitant amounts of money from you and not do any work to the building. That's why I wanted to look at the vacant property registry. That's mostly what came about. Because like people don't, like the community doesn't understand. They're like, oh, well, why are all the businesses empty? It must be because of parking. But it's not. I know lots of people that are looking at all of those buildings.
Yeah.
And as a small business, you cannot make that work. Not with the way they're trying to game it.
Yeah.
So we're saying that we have currently on the books some kind of.
Commercial maintenance.
Some kind of,
It's a commercial maintenance.
and some kind of enforcement. But
We only have one code enforcement officer for the whole city, for all of code enforcement. So those ones are usually not, she's not going out and looking at the buildings. If somebody wants to send in a complaint or notify her of, hey, this business facade is falling off, or their roof is falling onto my roof or whatever else, then she'll go out and look at it. But right now she doesn't have the bandwidth to keep up with all of the maintenance. And there's no incentive for the building owners to get somebody in there.
And they're in the process of hiring a second code enforcement officer. I'm just not
Yeah.
sure where that currently stands. But that's what my concern, like, if we've got, get something on the books, it's just a matter of.
How are we gonna
if it wants to be
enforce this?
Enforced or not, yeah.
so if there's a vacancy registered, then it follows that there's some mechanism in place to monitor that.
Yeah.
For duration of vacancy, and at some point there has to be a trigger
Yes.
that kicks out a citation or a letter of concern.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Followed automatically.
Yes.
So it doesn't necessitate somebody saying, oh, damn, let's call,
Right.
what's her name at code, right?
Yes.
Well, there was one city that had a renewal rate that upped every year. So, the first time on the renewal, it was $500, the second renewal was $1,000. Third year was $2,000, and then it capped at $2,000, and that was automatic. And then there was, of course, the built-in waivers if you're under construction, if you are in the process of trying to sell it. And it's in compliance with the building code,
Mhm.
then you could be waived for 2 years, but after that, you would just continue to pay the penalty. There's definitely some pieces that could be in there as
Yeah.
triggers, as you were talking about.
And I almost wonder if the comp plan, I don't know if the comp plan consultants, because they're the ones that I talked to about this, if they have any cities they could point us to
We
look at.
probably have a lot of them and
Okay.
what Stephanie's
Okay.
looked at for it, yeah. Because I've gotten a lot of the downtown and anytime I've collected them, I just send them over to Stephanie to look at, but that's a good point. We can check in with them and see if there's anything else.
Yeah, or if they know of like a best practice or whatever,
Yeah,
since they're the ones that brought it up to me.
City already knows when there's like in there because they send blank water bills to you. As long as you've got a meter, you get a bill, you know that there's nothing running through that meter,
Mhm.
so they would know that it's vacant.
Mhm.
Sounds like good fodder for discussion in economic vitality.
yeah.
Exciting. And I think also that if we had this, I think that probably Flat Rock would be interested in poaching our model, which is fine, right?
Yeah.
Let them have it if it's already designed well, with minor changes. So I think that would be a benefit to them. Oh,
Another closure on Main Street, the sports bar downstairs.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't do that.
The owner of Scotty's Jewelry is on the Economic Vitality Board, so, you know, there's representation of people that are gonna be impacted by this policy there.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And Stephanie was looking at like, you know, big cities that are really aggressive, like Chicago and stuff, where they can take your property. But focusing more on cities in North Carolina, our size, that we're gonna find that middle ground of actually working with people, but solving the problem, right? There's an issue we're trying
The
to.
hope is to have compliance.
yeah.
Mhm.
Well, I think Scotty's would fall under, they would have plenty of exemptions because they have been working on it and they have, now they're looking at structural, like, there's plenty of reasons they're actively.
Yeah, they've been communicating with us all along the
What you
way,
don't want is a building to sit empty for forever and ever and ever and ever years with no plans to.
like makes it sweet frog.
Yes, yeah, with no, because every day a building sits vacant with no plans for it, it deteriorates further. The worst thing for a building is to be empty.
With no lack of interest from people who want to go into some of these spaces too, that's where the.
My guess is that a lot, and I wouldn't attempt to, you know, estimate, but a lot of these buildings, their cost basis is so low
Mhm.
For the property owners because they are the original, going back, you know,
Mm,
Yeah.
forever and ever. So their cost basis is so low, their tax expense is dirt.
Mhm.
All right, but if you're getting tapped for $2,000 a day, that's $750,000. That doubles the value of the property. From a cost basis standpoint, right? Just in one move, right? That has to get somebody's attention.
Yeah.
Right? Even the trust fund in South Miami.
Oh.
So, I think this is the right direction to go. We just need teeth.
Yep.
In the enforcement side.
Yep.
I did have a plan as well to look at what the cost of a vacancy drains on city resources. So fire response, police response, code enforcement response. I saw that with a lot of the larger cities, they were able to equate a dollar amount for city services per square foot. I don't know if I'll be able to get as particular as that, but I might be able to give you a generalized amount. If I can figure out a way to look at 911 calls or responses or get a log, but know that that'll be on my list of things too, because I think that's the other piece is people think that vacant buildings aren't really costing anything, but they do cost us in services in response.
Opportunity.
Higher arson, higher, you know, just crime in general happens on vacant properties. There's a lot that goes along with that, so there's.
Lost revenue to the district.
Yeah, lost revenue
In
too.
general, like,
Revenue.
it's in my best interest to have every single one of the people working in downtown, all the businesses working well
Yeah.
and doing well, because it's a good look for everyone. So I don't know how you quantify that, you know?
I think that could, I think the property tax can be something that we could very easily quantify, like what the current tax value is of one of the buildings. I know they're working on it, but where Scotty's is, what that current tax value is versus what a tax value of a completed building is similarly. And then, you know, we've got what like, I think it's a penny for Main Streets. I can't remember now. I think it's like $15,000 or $20,000. And so for every $20,000 of value that improves on the, I'm sorry, incrementally for every value that improves on that building, that would theoretically reduce what your tax burden is on
The
the.
opportunity cost of having
Yeah.
someone active and tax paying in
Yeah.
that space.
Yeah, I think most people just consider the tax revenue, but there's more to it that
Yeah.
that drives the resources from the vacancies.
So is there any precedent for cities that have, you know, they have a structure to this of like actually identifying properties that perhaps have been, you know, kind of worst offenders? Is there a precedent for that, for cities actually addressing key properties that have been vacant for an extremely long time? Or properties that we know that the owner of that property has not engaged and try to move?
The initial presentation that I saw, I believe, was from Cherryville, and you know, the intention of the vacant property was in their historic corridor, right? Was to stop buildings from becoming dilapidated, because once they're dilapidated, they lose the historic value, but they also lose the value of actually being a building that you can put a business in, right? So they were showing the differences of, you know, this is the state of decline in one building, and what do you do at this point? Not all of them are gonna be savable, but if you can stop them from getting to this, you're gonna be much better off. Another city was one that did the repetitive, if you're on the list of being vacant, then you accelerate the fines that go with it. With some exception of years, right? So if somebody's doing construction, you know, you can make an exemption for 1 to 2 years, but if they're on there for 3, 4 years, then, you know, the fines are gonna continue to kick in. But I think we're all thinking about the 2 buildings that I immediately know of, and I've only been here for 12 years, but I don't think I remember really anything being in the gas station up here on the corner of Sixth and Main, and certainly nothing has ever been in the building that's Sweet Frog that I can remember.
620 was, it was.
The detail in place.
Yeah, and they were, and yeah, but that's one of the buildings I had in mind, and, you know,
Yeah.
Phil's talking about having teeth.
Yeah.
So we have an ordinance, but, you know, is it appropriate to, you know, for code enforcement to prioritize and perhaps, you know, identify, you know, a key building that, like that one, for example, that, you know, we know that, and that building is in a state of disrepair, it absolutely is.
Yeah.
And I would say that in a lot of towns, either the downtown nonprofit or the Historic Preservation Commission has the ability to, like, if someone's not taking care of it and doesn't want to keep on with the property, they could either donate it or the organization could purchase a property. Now, we don't have money to purchase any of these downtown properties of what they want to pay for, but that's what some places have done. Basically,
Bill.
yeah, states, yeah, I think.
I'll add that to the list. 'cause I don't think I forgot.
Talked with them when we were there for a conference, the vacant building policy. Yeah,
Yeah,
and who else
Oh,
was with
that's
us?
the list.
Oh, Linda Di Paola was with us too.
yeah.
I'll put States.
That was one that seemed the most.
I pulled up, I did some of the larger cities like Winston-Salem, and Charlotte, and they were more concerned about vacant cars, than vacant buildings, which was very bizarre. But, you know, I guess everybody has their own battles to wage. It was more the smaller cities and towns, that had the vacant commercial property issue, and had things on the books. And out of the 15 that I looked at, 5 of them had the vacancy registry. with different levels of, paying to be on there and different manners of which you would get, to be on there, but all of them worked in some capacity, the people who were in good faith trying to lease the building, or doing repairs, looking for an occupancy to happen within a short period of time. Really kind of, driving in on other places that weren't moving at all.
And I'd add something on what Phil had said on that cost basis, and I don't necessarily, I'll just be addressed, but that cost basis, when that owner passes away and they inherit first, receive it, starts back at zero, so if they don't wanna hold on, or it starts at that market value, so they don't have to pay the gain on it. And so that's what I've been thinking about a lot, is like, if they don't wanna keep up with the building, encouraging the what's the word? The
heirs.
the heirs, yeah. Encouraging the heirs to
We'll start reading the obituaries.
do something, yeah, so that's, anyway, so there's,
Well, they address that as well, the air contingency, making sure that there's a property manager that is in the city limits or within an hour call. So that a code violation can be addressed by somebody who's local. I think that could force a lot of people to decide whether they really want to hold on to a property if they want to sell it. And make it work.
Well, it sounds like you guys have a lot to talk about in economic vitality,
Yeah.
and I'm sorry, I will not be here to hear the whole plan that comes forth.
I'm really sorry.
I kind of, it's like one of the things I've been wanting for a long.
I was gonna say, I'm pretty pumped about this. Thank you for working.
Yeah, and then does NC Main Streets have a registry of vacant building policy?
yeah, and I've sent her all of them that we've gotten. Only other thing I had for economic vitality was, Strive Not to Drive Week is next week. And so that's like a region-wide, like Western North Carolina thing of encouraging people to bike or walk or use public transit to go to your destination from May 16th through 24th. So
Could you have that and
Yeah.
that you could send to everybody or?
yeah,
Okay.
and I thought you love here.
Awesome, okay, I'll take a step.
Yeah, and so basically, we've got just a little passport for, they had asked us if we would do this for the people who walk or bike to their destination that's on the passport. They can fill it out, get a little stamp, and then turn it in and went to Downtown Dollars. So that's the main involvement that we have with it. So it's, if they ride a bike to the business between May 16th and 24th.
Are you walking or riding your bike?
I'm not eligible.
Blue to grade.
Yeah, I'm not riding, I'll put the bike in my car and then.
We get a lot of people at our
Yeah.
shop that bike and walk, and
Yeah.
the city actually put a couple bike racks in front of our shop. And they look great, they look like leaves, they put them across the street in front of the bakery. And they were already being used, the first day they were up, people were putting bikes there, so it's awesome.
They had gotten a grant from AARP to do the initial run of them, and so then, we mapped out where they could go on Main Street to get the initial, group of them. And, this board recommended the leaf flower, or not the flower, the pedal, design for them, and those are kind of the best practice for, they say, like 2 points of contact for a bike on that. So there's just lots of bike related activities coming up, and also at the farmers market this Saturday. It's Senior Wellness Day, but also the Apple Country Bus is going to be there just on display, so people can learn about the bus system. And they're going to be doing 2 walk audit trainings, which is what the AARP. As far as Strive Not to Drive Week, I don't exactly know what that training will entail. I imagine it's probably reviewing like sidewalks that are places that don't have sidewalks, or don't have sidewalks, and also places that may not have like ADA ramps or things that are blocking the sidewalk, things like that. So that's what we've got for that. And then I think I had said at the last board meeting that the visitor center, the TDA are doing some updates to the stage down there. Just, it's all gonna stay the same format, but they're gonna kind of do some decorative repainting of it to make it look kind of they kind of emulate the depot with like the eaves on the roof and make it kind of like yellowish color. Because it'll be the trailhead pavilion, and so they're wanting to get that together before the trail opens, which is supposed to be coming up very soon. Yeah,
I may have missed it, but does the city have any plans to connect Main and Seventh Ave with the sort of bike route?
that's been with the Above the Mud
Mhm.
grants, that they applied for. I don't know
Yeah,
what-
they're now, I think that project is kind of on hold because we don't know where the federal grants are
Yeah.
gonna come or not.
Was that going down from Dry Falls across the south side of Main Street into the Oklawaha Trail, or was that a different thing going?
Yeah, so like, you know where the AutoZone is? So it was gonna follow, cause the Crusoe goes up to that end of Main Street. So it was gonna follow through to Grove. And then, I can't remember exactly how it.
Because we don't
connects
have
over to
access.
Oklawaha, but
Yeah,
they were gonna connect it to the
yeah,
Oklawaha.
because they've got that land down where that building just got taken down
Yeah.
by the CVS. So that's all like stormwater retention, but there'll be like a walking trail, and there's plans for like some gravel parking there
Yeah,
to connect it that way. We don't have the rail line
Yeah.
between Main Street and Seventh. That's, the rail company has not given that up,
That's
so
not in use, is it?
they store
mm-hmm,
there, and that's.
Down to Flat Rock. Market.
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, so there's several connections that they've been trying to work on with it.
What are we supposed to use as a stamp for the strive not to drive?
Just, your initials or.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Something.
It is a,
I have a paw.
oh, perfect. It is a low key, yeah, and then I just have this. And are they closed, Tartans?
Yep.
Yep,
I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
it was like 2 weeks ago, I think.
Yeah, it was like one.
Just up and closed,
Next
yeah.
day they were closed.
Oh,
And I think like 3 days ago, like it was like late last week, I think, maybe Friday-ish, they put up the for lease sign.
Yeah,
totally missed
I
it.
was just there a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, they were just open like 2 weeks ago. I was walking by, there was people hanging out there.
People, a lot of people.
I like their wing night.
Huh, and there's a lease sign up now?
Yep.
Oh, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
big banner.
Was there any outcome or feedback from our Kumbaya with the incubator group?
We haven't gotten their report back yet, because they were gonna compile it from other organizations, so waiting on that.
Have we heard back or many future decisions on the closing of main streets for parades and festivals this summer? Timeframes, towing.
We have not made any headway on that. We
Yeah.
did direct staff at the budget meeting to look at, the fees associated with having an event, and maybe rethinking some of those. And we talked briefly about putting a cap on how many events we could have, but we didn't get super in depth in that conversation at the budget meeting.
Yeah, and so all we do is try to get the events to either start later or set up later, but with the way the setup and breakdown and how, and Public Works availability currently, I don't know that speeding it up is something that's going to be very feasible
Yeah.
in the next year from the response that I've gotten for it, so I don't really see that there's gonna be much of a difference, to be honest.
There wasn't one of the main feedbacks by the police station was trying just to get extra towing there and maybe doing some sort of program with towing companies where they will get a fee or they will get a discount for having a couple of them lined up. Is that correct what we discussed here?
We did discuss that, but city council has not discussed that.
We provided,
Do you have another discussion about it to help city council be inspired to discuss it?
I'm inspired.
Lots of meeting from November 2024.
Okay.
I'll have to go back and see what, because we had a board discussion and a recommendation in what, March, I believe it was.
Yes.
And I don't have what that final decision was of what we recommended, but that has been directed to,
Would it be possible to put that on the, for the next downtown advisory board meeting to revisit?
Yes,
and, but I don't know what the,
we can put that.
I don't know if I'll have an update by then.
any change in response, so it'll just be a repeat of the same conversation.
Still put it on the agenda.
City council worried.
It could stay on the agenda every single time until it gets dealt with.
The dealing with it is that we don't have the events.
What? Sorry,
I'm sorry.
I got distracted. Chris, what did you say?
I was just wondering, I mean, it got very passionate. And I was thinking that it was like, okay, the city's council is gonna do something because that's what they asked. And then for you to not, is there something about it that the city council is not wanting to do when you send it back to staff?
I don't think it's that we don't want to do it. I think that it's a priority thing and that's not at the top of the list right now for us to discuss. It's not dead, it's just not the thing that's at the top of the list. So right now, I think we were more focused from a budgetary standpoint of like how much it costs the city to put on these events, because for Public Works to put out barricades and do all of that, like the Apple Festival, I think was almost $200,000 in what we pay. And so I think we want to reevaluate that. And then I do think there was a brief mention of encouraging people to do their events somewhere that's not Main Street, because we are getting quite a few on Main Street and we have other locations that people can host events. But I mean, I can bring it back up and see if we can do it after we pass the budget. I think that's everyone's focus right now. And there's a couple of state bills out there that are causing heartburn, so we have to wait and see what happens with that too. We passed the budget at the June meeting.
The recommendations that we had passed on from the downtown board were to start towing immediately at the time no parking gets advertised. If it says no parking after 1, you want to start towing at 1 instead of the current process of ticketing first, then towing. Incentivize or expedite tow company response time. Currently, there is no incentive for tow companies to tow for events over towing for a car accident or other purposes. Knowing this could have legal issues to work out, they suggest looking into the following. 1, can the city provide a guarantee to tow companies that will reduce the risk of not having a tow available in a timely manner? Can the city contract with the tow company for yearly event towing so there is an incentive or a guarantee? Can the city pay a tow fee, impound the vehicle, and then release when the driver pays the city? This came up because of issues with tow companies having to wait with the car for city lot to be a vehicle pickup. And then prioritize replacing the water barricades with vehicle rated modular barricades or the barricades that provide safety and ease of use for closing the street. And I will add that now that we have some of those, that does not
Save time.
at all. It doubles the time
Really?
because,
Some of them on the street cut 7th Avenue thing, right?
Yeah.
Those things.
yeah, because they, how those barricades work to stop a car. It like launches the car basically. And so then we've been, it stops them, but it stops them with like a 30-foot, what's the word?
Big ramp
Yeah.
thing, so it's not.
And so then our police and safety and public works have said that because of how those barricades are set up, they are now saying that we have to have still have the water barricades 30 feet behind those barricades. So now we have twice as many barricades.
But
So that's not going to reduce that.
With that all being said, I think a majority of what you were referring to, which we talked about before, was some sort of budget for next year, because if we can't do incentives, then this whole conversation is gonna wait until the following year.
I don't know what would be budgeted for with those recommendations.
Incentives for the tow company.
For the tow companies.
Or is that something that we have a fund that we can pull it from without having to go through city council?
No, that would have to be a,
Yeah.
That would have to be
come,
illegal.
cause it'd be a policy.
Yeah.
That legal would have to, cause I don't even know if we can do.
yeah,
Like how we do that. It'd have to be probably an RFP.
So, okay,
Because we also have to think, and I know this is off the agenda, and I don't mean to prolong this conversation, we've already had it and kind of got into it, but it just popped into my head, but with Seventh Ave and the condition that they are now, we are gonna have to start moving this also to Seventh Ave with street closures as well. And if we still are on the same policy where it's just like one next toe, they're gonna be dealing with the same thing we are on Main Street.
from a board standpoint right now, what I'm seeing is we've got, sounds like really two issues that we're kind of focusing on. We've got the vacant building, blah, blah, blah. All right, this seems to have enough oomph behind it. It is, the only concern is downtown. Right, it's not the rest of the city that gets involved in this. So why not establish a subcommittee out of here whose mission is to interface with the city, with public works, right? And the sole purpose to come up with a better plan all across the board, or at least look at it and see if there's a way, one, to reduce costs and reduce time, maybe come up with some new twists, you know, however it wraps around the tow trucks or whatever. But I've been around long enough to know that groups whose responsibility is focused on a subject don't get very creative after years and years. It's probably a good time for outside influence to start kicking the tires a little bit and see what can we do to streamline this process, to make it better for the police, better for the fire, better for public works, right? If anybody in this room believes that the city has all the right answers and check boxes, raise your hand. But I think it would be worth the effort.
Is there
Doesn't
a
have to be-
restriction on using boots?
yeah. And that won't get cars out of the.
Yeah, we need them all.
It's out, but it might.
Yeah, and there's legal issues with that. I will say that in the last 5 months, I've probably spent about 100 hours in meetings with police and public works on all of these issues. And the committee that's formed to do it, it's going to have a very difficult time making any progress on that. Because we meet monthly and still we had to have about 10 additional meetings.
It's really a fight city hall type issue.
No, it's a
It's a
availability. of
Public Works
authority.
and PD. It's, first of all, we don't have enough, I mean, we have open jobs.
Yeah, we don't have.
That's a problem.
Yeah.
Staffing, and also I don't want to do it differently. That's their, the PD and Public Works, but we need this, but we need this, but we want to do it like this. We want to do it like this with no flexibility for the optics of what it looks like down here, from what we've heard for years from all the merchants down here, from the like few staff that actually are down here closing the streets, running ragged up and down the street because it's hard for them to get it done, but they do. Thank you for doing a good job with what you have. But that is the resistance, is PD and Public Works.
Is that not something city council would have with?
And it might even be a man thing. It might even be a man versus woman thing. I'm telling you, that's part of what it is, Lindsay.
Is that a meeting we should ask John to be a part of?
It's something that we can look at, but I know that
No, it's that, we have been in
we've talked
100
about
hours
it.
of these meetings on this same topic.
They've talked about
it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what else you wanted.
The department heads can help persuade, and where do we go with it?
I mean,
Caroline can throw another fit. You want me to scream and come to city council meetings?
it's y'all.
I know, I don't want to.
The police
I didn't want to do it
department,
the first time.
And also, we haven't had any events that have the issues that you all have talked about since we've talked about them.
We haven't had any.
Exactly, so how we, how to, like,
That was one of the things that I brought up about trying to make some progress before.
so that's why, so they came to those meetings.
the police department was
Because
receiving.
none of these things that we've recommended aren't things, the towing immediately, but the expediting of towing is something that they
Yeah,
they said that they do. It's just a matter of, it's done, y'all are down the street on one end and the tow truck's up on the street on the other end.
That's not true. I walk up and down that street. It takes me about 6 minutes.
Yeah.
And I know what cars are there. No, that's
I
not,
felt
that's
the
not.
feedback from the police station was they just wanted to could have more tow trucks ready and available.
Their feedback on that is they can sometimes can't even guarantee that a tow truck.
That a tow truck will
comes.
show
That
up.
was their response, like, they can't just request 5 tow trucks and they always come, was what they had.
Yeah, I think,
told.
I think that's why we were talking about making an incentive to have somebody there, almost like on a contract.
And I think that we can take that back to them, but like I said, this right now is not the biggest priority.
So the question I would ask
Yeah.
is when are we contract with tow companies, when are those up? When's the terms of those?
It's
We don't
not a
contract.
It's on
Yeah.
a rotation.
Yeah, it's a
Do
rotated.
you just have a verbal kind of?
So like a list.
Companies?
So we can't, unless we go through an RFP process, then we couldn't just have like, okay, we're only gonna call these 3 companies. So they have a list probably of all of the towing companies in our area. And they call this one, and then the next time they'll call this one, and the next time they'll call this one to make it fair.
Right.
And they call them in advance, the one that they have for the events to come in advance.
But if there's a lot of accidents or other things going on, they're gonna go do that, not do our thing.
There's just tow trucks are sitting there waiting and they're driving up and down the street.
I
With a loudspeaker trying to get people to walk out of the bar, to move their car. Or the people sit there and watch out the window of a restaurant until the tow truck pulls up to their car.
And then they
come running, and all of that taking 2, 3, 4 hours of empty street with somebody screaming on the loudspeaker, and almost all the cars are gone, but a handful is just not cool, man. This is not cool. I mean, I know I already said it. I don't want to hammer on it more.
Well, I
Anyway.
will say, there are some tow companies that if you called or you called, it would be right there to pick up that car.
Oh, yeah.
Mile, if you so desired, if you saw a car there.
Yeah, but I don't, it's not my property though.
Yeah.
It's all of our property.
I don't mean to be a rock in your shoe, but at the same time, to be a little prickly is okay.
No, that's fine. That's fine. And I mean, I'm happy to keep it on the radar. It's just, I don't think that that's our top priority right now.
Well, I'll tell you what we can do. We can, much to Jamie's chagrin, we can keep it on the agenda. I would suggest.
If we have it on the agenda, let's just have like
An update.
I'm gonna say,
Yeah.
like, I would suggest having a very, very brief 2 minutes on it if there's no new updates. But that doesn't mean it has to fall off the agenda ever. And if, we get another year down the road and we're like, they keep talking about this, I mean, then like, it doesn't have to go away just because no action's been taken on it right now. But rehashing the same thing over and over and over also isn't gonna get us anywhere. But having it on this piece of paper and having it verbally spoken on this camera, on this recording every month does not hurt anything. But I would also like, be mindful of everyone's time. And I know Jamie has tried.
Yeah.
And so,
Maybe I can ask Lindsay and maybe Jen and another city council, chat about it, and we can maybe see, we can make, and then we'll put it on the agenda and come back and revisit it.
I think we should put it on the agenda
So
as a per request.
And that's fine. I just don't want to have the same repeated conversation going over these same lists of things.
Every
Progress
time.
for a half hour every meeting.
I think that goes both ways too, like, we can't be talking about it and just constantly having the city and city council say, we don't have time for that, it's not top priority, we don't have time for that, it's not, we gotta have some movement on it, because it's a topic that we are dealing with, and it's a topic that is gonna continue instead of that.
So how about this? I mean, we've already spent like 25 minutes on this, and I'm not saying it's not important, but since we have council here representing, what if we were to, there's a lot in what was suggested to council from what you just mentioned about the situation. If there's a consensus that we could narrow it down to maybe one thing as a priority and saying, listen, if we can look at getting more trucks out, if that's one of the biggest issues, can we not present it to the council and say, there's a lot in that package, but we've talked about it.
The priority.
This is the
And
one
this
thing.
is a priority. Can council consider one element here of these ideas from presented by us? Can they look at incentivizing a situation where we get more trucks on the ground?
Good idea.
And can you look at that one element of that package? Because we do believe that if we had more trucks, that would solve a lot of what is really affecting the situation and why we're having this conversation.
100%.
So, there's a lot in there. I think that's what I hear from you guys is that if there were more trucks out there, and yeah, you go to call these steel companies and they've got their own priorities and stuff like that. But if there was a way for the city to work with, one or two companies and actually have more trucks there, I think that would be a solution to some of the problems I hear. So will we just present that one element to council and we don't have to have a 30-minute conversation every meeting? You know what I mean?
I would like
I think
to
it's
say something that Jamie brought up, that she has spent 100 something hours.
I have exaggerated, but it's close to
I feel like I tried to explain our position. And I feel her pain in dealing with the city and higher up, because sometimes it is like knocking to that spray bottle right there.
Oh, yeah.
And it's very difficult, so I can sense a little bit of frustration in Jamie with everything that she's been through, and we keep bringing this up, and it's good that Lindsay's here hearing this. I don't think she was here when you were making a very strong statement.
I was not,
Kind of you.
I was not here.
It's on YouTube.
Formalized.
That said, I appreciate what you tried to get done, and I understand not getting any headway. I do agree, a 2-minute conversation, just so it stays out there. At some point in time, all these bills that everybody's trying to throw at you and your budget will come around and it will be a good time and you can figure something out.
I will say with confidence that anything that doesn't happen is not for lack of Jamie Carpenter trying.
Yes, this is very, very true.
I think the police hates to see me coming.
I think we can all understand budgeting in the city and.
Yeah.
A lot of finances being cut, that's probably not the number one issue.
Well, and there's still a lot of Helene recovery things that are going on. And so there's a lot happening and it's coming at us from every direction and monkey wrenches. And so it's just not, I hate to say that because it is important to me. It's just, we have to prioritize.
I would say maybe next time, if you guys want to I'll be here. We can set a timer. We can talk about it for 10 minutes. We can go back to the list. We can put it on the old business agenda. We can go back to the list that you guys already created in March, which is a great list. And we can say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We ask for 1 to start. We try to get that implemented, see how that goes, and then come back to the rest of the pieces later. There's nothing wrong with taking what you can get right now or like lessening your ask. So that would be my suggestion for next meeting.
Progress.
Yeah, okay, so let's put that on old business for next meeting. And we'll review that list and prioritize that list and pick what our number 1 priority is for that specific thing.
Sorry, Jamie, it literally just popped into my head.
I get my trigger when it starts.
What just came to me?
I will say, on that special event list, even though it's not necessarily ones that are as much impactful on what y'all are worried about, but the overall weight of special events, that's kind of what took over that special event conversation is the load on the setup and breakdown and the cost with Public Works. And so that kind of overtook the special event
They
conversation.
definitely did.
Whenever
So
we.
are the city still continuing to plan on use those barriers, or are we just gonna kind of?
Go back to the water.
We have to use the.
Yeah, we want to use
Yeah.
those for safety
Yeah.
purposes, but they're like really expensive.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a whole mixture, and this will be the first year that they're really being used, and so it's gonna be like, especially this year, it's gonna be a lot of like, oh, like, that's what the sound that they're all gonna make is like, oh. Cause we went through and calculated the cost of all the events on city services and all that.
It's so
It's a lot.
expensive.
And, Music on Main with the car shows, there's only gonna be 3 of those this year, which is a huge reduction. Music on Main is fine because it doesn't flood the street, but the car shows. And they're gonna follow Rhythm and Brews, so reducing those smaller events, will help kind of ease the conversation with some of the other ones because it's reducing their load, I guess. Yeah,
So are all these dates that are crossed out, those have been canceled?
yeah,
So let's move on to that.
yeah, that's just, it's something that
Are
we
they
have.
coming on being replaced, or they're just off?
No, they're just, so the Arts Council, had done Music on Main and it was funded mostly by TDA grant. And TDA had pulled their funding for this year because they weren't sure what to do with the hurricane and, so Art Council just, reduced their schedule. I'm sure there might be other reasons related, but, yeah, these are the upcoming events. So having only 3 car shows will make a big help as far as the closure. And then only having 3 of Oklahoma's events, helps lighten that load. I do want to ask, since it's one of them that's had some issues, I have not received any calls after Jump Off the Rock. And we had talked with them about opening up the 400 block earlier because that was the block that we had gotten a lot of issues with the race. Has anyone heard anything from Saturday?
Oh, no, I wasn't.
Okay,
It happened so early, by the time a lot of places open,
Yeah.
they're already kind of hooked up. And
we had gotten a lot of negative feedback specifically from the 400 block because all the actions on the 500 block, 400 block was just where they run to finish up. And so it's like dead there. And so we had asked them to try to open that block up a couple hours early. And so I hadn't got any of that block calling me. So
It surprised me if some of that negative feedback was also, because people just totally forgot that was happening and just
Yeah.
going up to a street corner. Because honestly, when I drove into work on Friday, I was like, why the hell are there barriers out here?
yeah,
I totally forgot.
yeah, but this is
Yeah.
the first year I hadn't gotten that feedback. So I was hoping.
Yeah, so it's possible if there was any negative feedback, some of that might have been there, of like you kind of just caught them off guard.
If they want to move it to finish up the 400 and we'll take them.
We had,
Standing around on the 300, that would be great.
we had asked them about moving their finish line to South Main to reduce that, but how it's a sanctioned race, so changing the route.
Yeah.
is a thing, yeah.
You have, I guess we didn't do this, maybe we didn't do this last year, but there's a She Slays 5K on Monday, the 26th.
Is
Is that on Main Street? Is that
No,
okay.
no, that was just, we get applications for events out.
Oh, okay, it was in here with the street closure and all that. stuff. No,
Actually, just copied on all of them.
that's fine.
When was that?
Monday, the 26th.
Yeah, it's at party. Yeah, this is just kind of,
So that was lockdown.
yeah,
Thank you, Jerry.
yeah, so there's lists, I have heard, this is one I need to bring up on that is, June 14th. I believe another protest is being planned, I don't know any details on it, I assume courthouse, but, they haven't submitted anything, that's right.
Did they have to do any street closures for the ones last month?
So there wasn't a official request for it, but then the week before, police had felt like it would be a big enough crowd to warrant a closure for it. So I did ask that if it was doing it for future, if we could have it go through the special event process. I don't know if it will or won't because of how the timing of, like, normally it's like a 90-day thing. And police don't want to have, like, they don't want to just say, no, we're not closing it. And then there's enough people all out in the street where they have to close it.
Yeah, they're gonna.
As it's going on, it's better for them to plan ahead on that. But I haven't gotten any other updates on that June 14th date.
Curious about how the execution of that went, if they had to do it, you know, without the funds, so they plan on the request, like, did they make it happen?
Did the who? Oh.
How it goes. What happened?
No, that one like 2 hours early.
How long did it take?
They did have, we're trying to close that block down about 2 hours before the event, just for the one block,
Real fast.
2 hours.
Do we know what that's about?
Huh?
It's probably the same protest of every
Same,
protest
yes,
going on
same.
Yeah.
almost a daily basis now.
It's just been where it's expanded outside of the plaza, so for that one, they closed it down. It sounded like they're probably not.
I'm guessing they're probably gonna close it for that one too.
Yeah, but I haven't heard any more on it. That's it.
On another note, on Saturday, my friend and I went to the market and we had enjoyed it and it was crowded and just had a great time there. And then we came back and walked Main Street from one end to the other. And one of the stores I went in and I was paying for one little thing and I looked at the people behind the counter and I said, man, it's really a lot of people down here. She goes, yeah, it's great. And I said, so parking didn't. And she came running around the counter and hugged me. She goes, no, making them pay for the parking has helped us. And that was a
Great.
Would not make. But she hugged me and I went.
I do not get hugs about
Nancy
parking.
is single-handedly changing the attitudes of parking.
That's good. I'm gonna bring her with me next time.
Hour of suggestion.
Well, it's like so cool to see all the people out there smiling and walking around and shopping and having breakfast with you.
Free parking, so.
Well, yeah, but they still have to walk away.
Not for long.
But you know, it's a good feeling.
Good, yeah. Mark, did you?
Have we heard about progress continuing on the hotel?
They're working on it.
Are they working on it?
I don't
I
know.
heard there
I
was.
saw the crane moving around, like,
Did you?
Hold on.
I don't know, last time I looked.
They've been working every time I drove by.
Recently,
They're
like,
selling golden pieces.
okay, well, maybe they have figured out their disagreement.
With,
I've noticed that nothing's been happening there. And I heard there was a conflict between contractors or I don't know, some rumor mill type thing, but I didn't know if maybe you had.
I'll say it on camera.
Insight on if it was gonna start progressing again.
I do not.
The unofficial response that I have is that they were taking a 2-week vacation. And work will resume.
That's until Canada.
Everybody needs a vacation.
It's a nice contract.
is there,
Vacation halfway through.
is there anything that we want to add to the agenda for next time? Other than the follow-up on
You
the,
had a pizza party?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, we should, it'll be my last meeting.
Oh, that would be fun.
Pizza.
Matt, and some focaccia pizza, please. I'll bring you.
What is your favorite pizza? Like junk pizza?
Yeah, what's your favorite?
My favorite pizza is my pizza that no one's ever had. I've had it.
Well, then, I think you shouldn't have said that.
It's,
Can we have the secret
I,
pizza then?
I
You
can't
got
stand the
three of it.
focaccia pizza.
Can we have the secret pizza?
No, I make badass.
That's what we
old school
want.
New York style thin crust pizza,
Here, next time,
maybe.
we'll discuss the pizza,
Bye.
but we should have pizza.
And a mountain of eclairs.
Yes, and a mountain of eclairs.
Oh, I can make you.
My mom's the one that likes it. I love the eclairs too.
All right, we'll talk about it.
Got her through my stepfather's death, the eclairs. It's,
So if next week is your last week,
no, next
month.
month,
next month is your last month,
June 30.
then when do we conduct,
July, your July meeting is your organizational meeting. So that's when you'll elect officers. You just won't, so Matthew being the current vice chair will run that meeting and then either you'll boot him or you'll have him as
I
chair.
guess it'll depend on how good the pizza is next month.
Yeah, I guess.
So volunteer appointment.
Volunteer to bring the special secret pizza.
it'll be like our new Air Force One airplane.
Yes. Lindsay's like, I'm not gonna miss this meeting.
I'm gonna miss this meeting. No.
Yeah, not the.
So I can be berated by Mark again about tow trucks.
See what you did there.
Yeah.
I have to make pizza.
Also, thank you to the committees and thank you to our committee chairs for doing this. I mean, this is exactly how I wanted all this to go when I said we need to soup up how these committees are working. We need to have chairs and vice chairs. You need to do official business every time. Like having this report and this being like kind of our action list this is exactly what I wanted to see. So I'm glad that makes me feel good that mechanism is in place. So thank you for your leadership. Thanks. And thank you to all of the committee members. All right, anything else informal discussion with the camera rolling and then we can adjourn. And then we can talk about whatever we want.
I had one
Golden visas, planes.
informal thing,
Yes,
and maybe it's just informal because I don't know where to put
it's
this.
fine.
I was walking out on Seventh Avenue out of the underground and I saw that they planted all these trees directly centered under these low hanging power lines. And it seems like that's gonna be an issue because the trees are gonna grow and then the power company is gonna trim them aggressively and then they'll die. So I was wondering if that was something that was on the radar.
Yeah, those low lines we're just waiting on AT&T to
Yeah.
come and remove them.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Yeah, because that was the whole plan, was to have all the lines up high, so that way the
Yeah.
trees don't, and unfortunately, I've learned that utility companies just come and go.
They just do whatever they want.
Whatever they
They're really
want.
coming and going.
They've got like a portion of it just like in the ground,
Yeah.
and kind of couple cones around it and.
I know our people have been pounding them, but.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
They can do whatever they
Yeah, so
want.
once that lower line is removed, then you've got nothing
Yeah,
to.
bro.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah, that's a good question.
That was a great question because now we all know the answer. And so we can tell people when they ask the same question to the general public.
Are bike racks coming to Seventh Avenue?
That's a good question.
I noticed
I think they are.
I used to be able to park in front of it. I am not able to do that.
Yeah, we, with the new ones, there's supposed to be some that are going there, and and community character, that's another thing that we're gonna have to start figuring out is the seating for it, because we paused on that. But we do have some locations that are for the bike racks. I'm just not sure how many we currently have and what the quantity on.
So do we have the racks? We just haven't done the
I'm
installation?
not sure yet. I need to check on that.
Yeah.
And they're gonna be the pedals
But
again.
we had two before, so. So there's already a precedent for rack. We had racks before.
Yeah, I'm not sure if they have them, just not installed or not. I'll check on that.
Yeah.
Do you like the new bike rack since you bike all the
I
time?
haven't seen them yet. I actually.
Come by the block.
They blend in.
Yeah.
Coffee and check it out.
I feel like they blend in.
Oh, they look great.
Some people are like, I didn't see them. And I'm like, you just,
I did vote for the pedal, so I.
okay, good.
They look,
That's what I was thinking, is like hooking up a couple bikes, like just get some cheap bikes and hook them up just so like shows that they're.
Yeah.
they're bike rack. I got two I bought in,
You guys know.
no, they're in the back of my van right now. I bought them at a Main Street conference from a pawn shop.
You should get them and hook them up
I should,
every so often.
When did you buy bicycles? After I left?
but no, not that conference, a different one.
I was gonna say.
Still.
Yeah, it was the safe still.
Can I see? We have pictures.
That was the first day they put them in too.
Okay.
Okay, are we done?
Anything else? Okay, I do need one person to say,
Motion to adjourn.
thank you, Jerry. That's all we need. And we only need the motion. We don't need a second or a vote or anything on adjournment. So adjourn, thank you. Stop the recording. Now we can talk about it.